Okay, so if you're watching this video, you're looking for, or you were looking for, and you found a cute and very appropriate box for Christmas, whether it be for a child or an adult. This is exactly what you're looking for, and you have it, and we're gonna put it together. And we're gonna begin by just piecing together our little toy soldier here. And once we get that done, we'll put the box together and bam, 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 we'll be done. It's pretty simple. As far as the toy soldier goes, this is mostly a paper piecing sort of project. So I just kind of put everything where it needs to be, and we'll just kind of move it out of the way, and we'll put it together one piece at a time here. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to find, in my case, this peach or blush colored piece, completely solid, no cutouts, and then we're going to put this piece on top of it. Okay, just like that. We're going to grab this piece and just start applying our glue. Nice and easy. Go very easy on the glue. We don't want to warp our cute little toy soldier as we assemble this. There's going to be quite a few layers here, so let's not thicken them up too much with too much glue. A little bit will do. And just line that up so it matches correctly. Take a look here where he's got his little arms and make sure that that looks good. And just kind of check the perimeter, make sure everything is lined up nicely. Flatten it out and can move on to the next layer, which in this case, it's totally up to us where we want to go at this point. I'm going to just put this layer on since it's fairly large. And we'll get Mr. Toy Soldier's clothes on. I'm sure that wherever he resides, it may be a little chilly, and I think that people may take him more seriously if he's in uniform. Okay, so just get that right in place, line that up nicely, and make sure it's nice and flush with the bottom, and then here on the sides as well. There we go. Wonderful. Okay. And I'm going to move up to the top where his hat is. We're going to start with this blue layer. We're going to get that glued down first. And then we've got a nice black decorative layer. It's going to go on top of this layer. So the big thing here is just making sure that we've got it nice and aligned up at the top and around the sides. Just like that. Because you do have you got to add some hair. And we want to make sure that this isn't too far down, so that the hair sits in the correct spot. Okay, now I've got this decorative piece. It's going to go on top of the blue. And this is a weird kind of glittery, satiny paper. The back of this is not as, well, it's not as porous as my AC cardstock, so I'm curious to see how this is going to glue down. So far, so good. There we go. Okay. All right, and then we've got this little piece here, and that's going to go right at the bottom of the hat. So we want that to be flush with the bottom, like that. Make sure it's nice and centered, like that. We're going to throw a little rhinestone or a pearl on this little circular section once everything is all together. Just kind of jazz it up a bit. So, as always, take a look at the final photo on our website to see what else we did to sort of embellish this project. Okay, so this is glitter. It's going on this weird material, this weird paper. I'm not sure what it is. So I'm just going to be a little more patient with it. Okay, and we're just going to work our way down. I'm going to grab his hair and get that glued into place. Go real easy on the glue here. It's a pretty small, delicate little piece. You don't need to overdo it on the glue. And you want to kind of pop this in and push it up as high as it'll go. And make sure it's nice and centered. There we go. The eyeballs, we can either do some liquid pearls for the eyeballs or some tiny little black rhinestones, whatever you have handy, or even just a pen. You can color in a couple circles. I'm not sure which one I'm going to do yet, but either way, any of those will work. The eyes were just so tiny that we didn't include them, but you can see here I've got some tiny little black rhinestones that would work perfectly for his eyes. So don't forget his eyes. Definitely want those. And now I've got the mouth, I've got the glue on the back of the mouth, and you'll notice that there are some markers here to help you position that accurately so that he looks nice and symmetrical. Okay, there we go. I think that looks good. I got some glitter inside of his nose, but that's all right. Okay, so got that. Now, you know what? I'm going to skip down to the bottom, and I'm going to put his pants on. I'm sure his legs are cold, among other things. All right, so we're going to start with this giant blue piece. It's not giant, it's just the biggest part of his pants. Okay, and just pop that right on the bottom there. Make sure that it's nice and flush with the bottom and that it's nice and centered. There we go. We're going to eventually, once we're all done with this guy, we're going to pop dot him on the front of the box. Okay. All right, then we're going to find this piece here, and that's going to go right over the blue part of the pants. Try to get a little bit of glue up to the very ends of the these little really skinny pieces here. And if you've got too much glue anywhere, just kind of hit it with your finger, dab it a bit so it flattens it out, thins it out, so you don't have it squirting out all over the place. Okay, now I'm going to lift this up and hold this in my hand while I place this down so I have better control of where it's going. These two little thin strips, you want to make sure that those line up nicely right along the edge and that the overall piece is nice and flush with the bottom. Okay, these black pieces are kind of, well, they're little placeholders because ultimately we're going to need to put these little pieces on here. And you'll notice that kind of looks like a cutting blade at the bottom. Okay, so the tip of the cutting blade here is going to be on the left. The tip of the cutting blade, so to speak, is going to be on the right side. And we're going to glue these right on top of the little thin areas of the black because he's got nice little stripes down the side of his pants. So we want to get that in place just like that. There we go. Same thing with the other one. The middle is going to stay dark and black. There we go. Get that nice and lined up there and lined up here. It should pretty much terminate and line up with the very tip of this little black piece up here. And then make sure that it's also flush with the side. And there we have it. Okay. I think I got that pretty good. There we go. Okay. All right, so that just leaves a few more things here. So we've got his nice little jacket here, and I think that the key here is this little section here, just getting it lined up with that little section there. It's kind of a weird shaped piece. If you just saw this laying somewhere on the ground, you'd be like, what is that for? I would never guess that it's for a paper toy soldier. Okay, and actually you can see here as part of the pants go here, it's kind of like a little puzzle piece, and you can just kind of match it up with that as well, and that looks good. He does have a little white collar up there, so make sure you don't mess with his collar. Okay, and then we've got this little piece here. That's the other side of his coat. His arm is in there. Okay, and just take a look at this little, the little corner here. Just match that up with the corner on where his armpit is. And then that should just kind of fall into place nicely. There we go. A lot of glitter happening here. All right, and then we've got this final little piece here that's going to go right here, just like that. Okay, so let's get some glue on the back of this guy. And pop that right into place. It should be pretty much aligned with the left side there, the left side of the white base underneath, because we want this nice little line up here. Okay, now we do have a little belt buckle. It doesn't have a hole in it, it's just solid, but we're going to put a little rhinestone in the center of this to kind of give it that appearance. Okay, so find a nice maybe green rhinestone to throw in there. And then we've got his little cuffs here. Okay, and those are going to go right there. You want to leave a little bit of a gap right there, so there's a little bit of the white showing, but the blue is going to be flush with the bottom of the white area there. So that will help you with the alignment there. You'll see what that looks like here in a second. There, just like that. And then one more. Get that in there. And here we go. Okay, so remember, don't forget the eyeballs. Again, you can either draw them in if you want. I've got one little rhinestone there, one little rhinestone here. These are super tiny. So I am going to grab my pick-me-up tool, and you know what I'm going to do is, again, so here's the center of his face, and we're going to go up a little bit and then try to kind of figure out where, I'm just going to put a little hole right there. Not a hole, but just kind of like a little marker to see if that looks okay. Yeah, and I think that looks nice. You can barely see it. It didn't really do anything to harm the paper because we are going to either draw or put something on there. I'm going to put a little dot of glue right where I put my little marker. That might have been a little too much glue, but that's okay. I'll grab my rhinestone. And actually, I'm going to lift some of this glue up. There's way too much glue on here. It's all going to shoot out. I'll wipe some of that off. And just pop that into place with my pick-me-up tool. And a little bit of glue shot out around it, but it's pretty uniform and it's going to dry clear, so I'm not overly concerned about that. And it's kind of difficult sometimes working with these tiny little rhinestones, so this is why this tool is very helpful. And I'm going to pull off some of this glue again. I put way too much on there. Okay, and there we go. Use my little X-Acto knife to kind of nudge it a bit, and there you see you've got the eyes. Maybe they're fine. They're totally fine. Okay, so he's done. We're going to move over here to a few tiny little pieces just to get those out of the way. We've got some little candles here. There's a gold portion that goes on top of the white. So simply throw a little bit of glue on, in my case, the gold. Yours may be a different color. And you're just going to pop that right into place right there, like so. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing with the other one. We've got two candles, keeping everything nice and symmetrical as far as the design goes. There we go. And wonderful. Okay, and then we've got the actual the red part of the flame here. So just put a little bit of one dot of glue will probably do. And I got way too much glue on there. Actually, maybe not. I'll just dab that with my finger. And then we're going to place that right in the center of our little flame here. Like that. Same with this guy here. One tiny little dot of glue will do. Okay, and this is all going to piece together in the end when we are done with the actual box itself. Okay, so get that nice and centered. There we go. All right, candlesticks are done. Mr. Toy Soldier is done. There's a little crown that's going to go on top of the box here. I will do that later. In the meantime, we can work on the little floral elements that we have for this project. And there's 2 layers, 3 different sizes, so kind of group them by size. Okay, so again, just want to make sure that we're kind of matching these up by size. Actually, these 2 are exactly the same as far as size goes, and then there's one large one that's going to go at the top. So the idea here is to take the bottom part, actually you're going to take both layers, and you'll notice that there's a score mark going through the center. Just grab it by both sides and pinch it together and focus on trying to pinch that tip too. Okay, so we're basically giving this thing a little bit of dimension by simply pinching it, and we're going to do the same thing with the top layer as well. Just like that. Just give it a good solid pinch, especially right up at the tip to give that some dimension. And you're going to do that to all of the pieces here. Okay, the two smaller ones and the one large one. Just get that all pinched, and we're going to glue them together. Add our little berries, and we'll save that for the end of the assembly. Once everything's together, we'll just either pop dot or zot these. You could glue them, hot glue them, whatever you want to do. Just as long as they stay in place. That's the main objective. There we go. Okay, and one more here. And again, I'm just kind of pushing my finger in the center and then taking these two fingers and then pinching it, and definitely spending a little extra time on that tip. Get that tip nice and pointy. Okay, just like that. There we go. And there we go. Okay, so again, I'm going to take the smaller layer and just kind of place it inside of the larger layer. When we glue this down, we can glue this down flat and then bring it back to being trained. Okay, so go ahead and get your glue on the back of this. And just go easy on the glue here. You don't want it smearing out, so apply just the right amount, not too much. And just make sure you match it up correctly, get it nice and centered. The little area for the berries there, that is not bigger or smaller, it's like the same size, so try to match that up. And then when you have that matched up, everything else should kind of fall into place, and then you can feel free to just give it a push so everything is nice and flat. Now I'm gluing pattern paper to a green foil, so I really actually have to press this down despite the fact that we have to train it. But training it initially kind of gets those fibers in the paper to remember and kind of ease up and let loose a little bit, so that it's much easier to train it back now that the glue, well, the glue hasn't set yet. I have to be patient with that. But anyway, once yours is dry, go ahead and squeeze it back into this form here where, you know, there's more dimension and it's not just laying flat. I'm going to do that a little bit later in the video after I'm sure that these two layers are really bonded well. Because right now, again, if you're using this brushed foil that I have, you're going to have to be a little more patient before you jump ahead and try to train this. Okay, so I've got that lined up nicely. Now I'm going to press down and get those to bond nicely. That should do it. Yeah, I'm just going to leave that off to the side and just be patient with it while I do the last one. And then we can put our box together, which, well, actually before we do that, we've got one more little section to kind of pre-assemble, and then the box is going to be very simple. It's actually not that difficult of a piece. Most of this is just paper piecing, so not a hard project by any means. Okay, so that looks like it's nicely lined up. Here we go. Press down there, and then I'm going to flatten this out so that I get all of this holding nicely. Okay. And actually, I'll probably just stick these under my mat to keep them nice and flat while they dry. And then we'll reshape them. These are the berries. We'll put those on in just a moment. In the meantime, I can bring this piece over. In my case, I've got a large blue piece. It's the only piece that looks like this. It's got these little nubs and these little sections here, kind of coming off the bottom. Find these, in my case, gold. They look like letter D's. These are the little candle stands. Throw a little bit of glue right on there, and you can see how down here it's not straight. It's kind of sticking out a bit. You're going to line this up with the little part that's sticking out. Make sure the bottom is flush, just like that. I'm going to lift this up so I can take a look from the side, make sure that I did a good job, and I did. That looks great. And do the same thing on the other side. Here we go. Well, there. Okay. And for something like this, it's maybe a little bit easier for me just to pick it up and hold it. There we go. I'm kind of using my finger as a guide to help me lay this down nice and flush with the base of this blue piece. Okay, let's get our door in place. You'll notice that this green door here, there are some markers here to help you get this nice and centered and at the appropriate height. Okay, so definitely take those and use them to your advantage. Let's get our glue on our green door. Just like that. And get that nice and lined up with the markers. Before you push it down completely, just take a look at it, make sure it looks centered. I think that looks pretty good. Okay, press that into place. Next, we've got this piece here, and you can see these two little nubs that are kind of sticking out there. That's where this is going to go. Okay, so we want to line that up. The rest of it will just kind of fall into place. So let's get our glue on this guy here. And there's a lot of little candy cane sections here, so to speak. Just make sure that you get glue in as many little places as you can, like so. Okay, and again, it's the bottom nub that you want to make sure you get this aligned with, and make sure that it's aligned nicely. Get the other nub in place, like so, and then the rest of it should just kind of fall into where it needs to go. I kind of nudged and moved on me a tiny bit, but that's okay. That looks good. Okay, and we've got these two little green pieces that go right here. So get your glue on the back of this piece, and let's position it into place. So, you know, growing up, being Polish, I never really, we celebrated it a little bit different. Didn't really have the toy soldiers or anything like that. It's more traditional, just kind of European style things. So this doesn't really, never really had memories of toy soldiers or nutcrackers, but nevertheless, I know a lot of you did. And this is a really cute piece. Okay, so we've got that in place. Again, when you put these green pieces down, in my case green, make sure you've got a nice even border going all the way around, and then you don't want to go above this little tic-tac looking shape here. Okay. All right, now I'm going to finish this off by putting this little roof piece on. Now, one thing I do want to mention is starting here at the bottom, all of this is going to have glue on it. You'll notice that this little piece kind of doesn't glue down all the way. A little bit of it sticks off. That's by design. So we don't need to put glue on this entire section up here. Maybe just a little bit, like towards where the peak of the roof is going to be. You want to add some glue there. The rest of it, just kind of, just leave it be. You don't need to put glue on that entire little crown up there. But you certainly want to make sure that you get glue all the way out to the very ends of these pieces here so that these don't come pulling off at all. Just line that up, run it along that angle there. The other side should just pretty much fall into place, just like it did. Okay, there we go. And that looks pretty spot on. There we go. And then we've got two additional layers here for the top, for the crown. I'm going to put my red layer on first. that's going to go on top of my gold layer, and that's going to fit on there perfectly flush. It's like a little shadow layer. And then my little white piece here, this is going to be an inset piece. So we're going to throw just a few dots of glue on that, and then that is going to go inside the red. You want to make sure that you keep a nice even border all the way around this shape here. Get it nice and centered, and voila. Okay, so this is ready to go, and we can actually take and the rest of this is going to be pop dotted. I'm going to leave this alone for now, but you can see that our candles are going to go here. We're going to pop dot those. Our toy soldier is going to stand right here, and then of course the holly and the berries, and we are ready to assemble our box. All right, so we're going to put together our lid first, and the lid is made up of these 4 pieces here, and then we've got a bottom, or a top I should say, and then there's one that has a little TL cut into it. That means top liner, so the lid liner. Okay, we'll put that off to the side for now. This is our top, and then we have some panels because we want to kind of just make it not so plain, obviously. But first thing we're going to do is we're going to put this together. You'll notice that on these pieces we have some identifiers. Okay, like for example, this one has a Roman numeral 1, so that's going to go first. And then we're going to find Roman numeral 2. This is Roman numeral 2. Okay, you can see that here. Then find Roman numeral 3. And then we're going to find Roman numeral 4. Now, Roman numeral 4 is 4 lines in the shape of a box. Okay, and that's going to go last. So let's go ahead and put this together. So we're going to start by putting glue on the tab that actually has that mark on there for the number 1. Okay, and I'm going to get that glue out to the very edge here. Okay, put that down on my surface, find piece number 2, and just kind of match that up. Put it up right up against the little score mark there on that tab and press down. And once it's got a grip, you can fold it over onto itself and press down right there. Get that pressure on there. Make sure that this is nice and straight here. That will indicate that you did a good job getting everything lined up. Okay, so piece 1 and 2 are now connected. Now find piece number 3. It's right here. We're going to put glue on the tab with the number 2 on it. So just glue that right on there, or put the glue on there, I should say. And I'm going to spread that glue out to the very edge. Put that down, grab your piece number 3, and get that nice and lined up. Make sure it's nice and flush at the bottom, just like that. Give that a second to hold, and then fold it over onto itself if you want. And you can kind of take a look and make sure that it's sitting nice and flush here, and that the angle on this tab matches up with the angle on the tab behind it. That way you know you've got it perfectly aligned. And press that down. Okay. So we've got 1, 2, and 3 connected. Now we're going to put glue on tab number 3. And throw a little bit right out to the very bottom. Spread that glue out nice and thin. And then grab piece number 4, which is this one here, the long one, with the little notch. Get that lined up. Make sure it's nice and flush at the bottom. Just kind of nudge it right up against that little score mark for the tab, and then fold it over onto itself. Check your alignment here. Make sure that's nice and flush there, and then these tabs here should match up as well. And that means you did a good job. Press that down. Okay, there we go. And now while this is flat, we're going to add our panels. It's kind of a long piece, but that's okay. And find all your panels. There's 2, well, all of them are pretty obvious as to where they go, but I will show you here. You can see that, well, that piece is going to go there. Okay, and you can see that this piece is going to go here. And this piece is going to go here. And this piece is going to go here, which just leaves our last piece, and that's going to go there. Okay. Now when we put these down, we want to make sure that we keep a nice even border all the way around, and especially this area here with the notch. Yeah, that's for your fingers when you take the lid off, so it's easier to pull it off. You want to make sure that there's a nice even border there as well. So this is a pretty self-explanatory part, but I'm going to hang out with you while we put it together. And okay, so let's get these in place. And I'm just going to simply get my glue on these panels. This is not only for aesthetics, but it's also going to, you know, thicken up the box and make it a little more durable and strong. Okay, so again, get that right in the center. Make sure you got as even of a border around this as possible. And then once you've got it, lock it in there and just work your finger around the perimeter. Make sure that it's sitting on there nicely. And then move on to the next section here. And try to focus on getting a little bit of glue as you're working your way around. Work that glue out to the edges as well so that those don't come peeling back. You can always go in and fix them if we find that we got a little bit of it sticking off, but better to get it done right the first time, obviously, if possible. Okay, so we got two of them done, and we got this big one here. You're gonna have to work a little bit quicker here because of the size, so that the glue doesn't start drying out. There we go. And again, I'm going to focus my attention on where the little notch is and try to make sure that I get a nice even border around that section there, and then everything else should kind of fall into place, which it did. And I had a little bit of glue come out of there. I'm just kind of using my fingernail to get it out. It's going to dry kind of glossy clear. I try to avoid that wherever possible, but sometimes it happens and it's not the end of the world. So don't worry. Don't you worry your pretty little mind. I just threw in a Taylor Swift reference there. Weird. Jeez, Leo. All right. And then, you know, once you have one on, you can kind of take a look at the horizontal line on that one and use that as kind of a guide for placement on the rest of them. You want to try to keep it as consistent as you can. I honestly don't think that as long as it's in the ballpark, anyone's really going to notice. But again, it's just kind of what's going through my head as I'm working on these projects. So I thought I'd mention it. Okay, last one, and then we can go ahead and put this guy together. And again, using this line here as a horizontal reference, and then also just making sure that I keep it nice and aligned as far as, you know, making sure that I have a nice even border around that little notch. And there we go. Okay, beautiful. What is that? Oh, thought I got some glue on there. Okay, all right, so that's pretty much all done. Now it's just a matter of making this all one continuous piece. And we do that by putting glue on tab number 4. It's the one that has the 4 little lines arranged in a circle or a square, whatever you want to call it. Get your glue out to the edges there so that it's nice and seamless. And we're going to have to do this in the air because it's not like it's not an equidistant piece. So just get that as accurately as you can as far as the alignment goes. There we go. Give that a second to set. You can technically push it down like this. It's not going to hurt anything. Okay, there we go. So Obviously, you've got the 2 notches here. These are the sides. This is the top. And then I'm gonna find these 2 pieces. Again, remember, one of them has a little TL on it. This is the liner. Put that off to the side for now. This is the actual bottom, or in this case, the top, because this is the lid. And what we're gonna do is we're going to anchor this to one side first, just to kind of, well, anchor it so that the rest of it goes a lot easier. So I'm gonna get some glue on this tab. This is gonna be our anchoring tab. And I'm gonna run some of that glue out to the very bottom here. And I'm gonna kind of paint that out to the very edge here. Thin it out so it sticks a lot quicker too. Okay, and then we're gonna grab this piece and get that nice and aligned with that tab in the bottom. Make sure you've got it nice and flush up against the bottom. And press and hold the 2 ends a little bit too, so those don't come pulling off. And then what you can do, once it's got its initial grip, just put it down on your table and push down from the inside. And that will kind of speed things up a little bit. Okay, so that tab is in place now. That's looking good. Now, we've got a lot of surface area here to work on, and I'm wondering, you know what, I don't think we need to do it all in one shot. I think what we're gonna do is get the 2 sides in place first, and then it's flimsy enough to where we can actually lift it up and glue the last 2 tabs in place after the fact. So let's do that so that we avoid having to go in and fix things, and get a little bit of glue out to the edge so we can get that right out to the edge. So everything is nice and crisp and clean. Paint that glue with your finger or whatever tool you want to use. I like using my finger even though it's a little messy because I can really get a feel it more. I can tell exactly where and how much glue, all that good stuff. All right, so let's close this up and just get the 2 sides aligned. Start with one side. I got plenty of glue on that side there. I'm not worried about it drying up, and even if it does, I can always go back in and fix it. Get that nice and aligned on that side. Give that a good press, and then move on over here. Press that down into place. There we go. Beautiful. I think I did a pretty good job there. And again, if it's not making contact or if some of that glue dried or I didn't get enough, we can always go in and fix that. There's actually another layer that's going to go on top of this. It's going to hide it. It's that blue layer that we put together, but you know what? That worked out very nicely and it's on there nice. So the rest of this, now all of a sudden it's not as flimsy as it was, but I'm going to lift this up and I'm going to get my glue on this tab here. Well, both of these tabs actually. And then we'll close this thing up. And I think because the bottom and the sides are in place, the top should pretty much be in the correct position automatically. For the most part, we may have to nudge it a tiny bit, but go ahead and press that down into place and you can see that in fact it is kind of just magically lining up nicely for us. Okay, so just hold that down. As you're holding it down, kind of check your work. Take a look around, make sure that everything is sitting nice and flush. I can tell that I've got one little area here that just didn't glue down very flat. I wonder if you can see it. Yeah, you can see it there. It's barely anything, but I'm gonna clean it up. Just grab a scrap piece of paper. I just found this piece of paper hanging out. I'm gonna throw a little bit of glue right on the very edge of it and just pop it right in between those 2 layers. Just paint a little bit of glue right in that section. And then just press that down right in that little area that was sticking up so that we can make it nice and flat and perfect. Or as close to perfect. Let's make it excellent. Let's not make it perfect. And then you know what? Same side on the same section on the other side kind of did the same thing. So I'm gonna grab that same scrap piece of paper that still has some glue on it and just paint a little bit of glue into that little nook. And hold that for a moment, let it set. There we go. Okay, now remember this piece, the one that has the little TL on it, that's our liner. And what you want to do is throw a nice thin line of glue around the perimeter, preferably on the tabs. And then maybe just a tiny little bit in the center. And just pop that right in there. It's going to hide the tabs and make this thing a lot stronger. Just kind of run your finger around the perimeter where we have the glue. And there we go. Okay, so remember, this is our lid. So now, what we can go ahead and do is take this blue section, and that is going to get glued to the red section here. Should be nice and flush at the bottom, nice and flush here, and there's just the crown, and these two little sections here are going to be sticking off. That's by design. And we're going to actually put our glue on this structure, because that is going to be completely covered up. So let's begin doing that. Let's get some glue. I'm going to get a nice thick line of glue here. I'm going to spread this out thin, and then maybe just a little bit in the center. I'm painting this glue out all the way to the edge, all the way around, so it sits nice and flush. And I have a feeling that on that one side there, I may need to go in and do some cleanup. Just drop that down and get that aligned nice and flush on the bottom and the sides here. Work your way up, make sure that that's making contact, and the rest of it should just fall into place, which it did. Okay, and you can put that down on your surface like this and push down from the inside. Another thing you can do if you want, because I sometimes don't like rubbing my finger on paper too much, just feels kind of creepy to me. You can use a dowel to really get into those corners and push that down into place. Okay, and there we have it. And just as I predicted, this little area here where I just didn't get enough glue, and when I did thin it out, it just wasn't enough. I'll grab my scrap piece of paper. This is actually just notebook paper, which is even thinner than cardstock. Typically I use cardstock for this, but I'll just slide it between these two layers, paint a little bit of glue to the underside of the blue layer there, and then just press that down and hold it. So there's really no reason why you can't get this to be nice and flat and flush. And I was totally right. That side, I just did not get enough glue on, and it is just pulling back and it's not playing nice. But you can clean that up, no problem, just as I am right now. Okay, so check your work, and if you have any other areas that are kind of peeling back, you can always grab your scrap, put a little bit of glue right on the very edge there, and just paint it with a little bit of glue in that area that's not sticking, and just press and hold that in place until it does. Okay, so all that's left to do on our lid is, and I've got my little foam squares here. I'm going to foam square these, or if you have pop dots or zots or whatever you want to call them, we're going to use those, or I am at least. You could glue it flat, but I think it's going to look, it's going to be prettier and just kind of more dimensional, obviously, if we add a little dimension to it. Okay, so let's do that. Let's get our little toy soldier. Toy soldier is going to be standing right in the center like this. Okay, his feet are going to be flush with the base, or the bottom here. And we'll flip them over and start applying our little foam squares. And I'm going to not bring them too close. I'm not going to apply them too close to the bottom. I don't want them to be overly visible from the sides. It's not the end of the world if they are, but if they don't need to be, then that would just make it look more magical, I think. And we'll just add a few there, a few there. He's got a lot of surface area to cover here. And I'll kind of do the push test to see if I've got any areas where when I push it kind of bends too much. I'm going to put one more here in the center just to keep him up, and then maybe one here, and one here. Okay, so I can go and I'm going to use my X-Acto, peel that off. And then we'll get him placed. And we've got some candles to add. And then I'm going to grab the holly leaves and that are sitting there drying because of the type of paper that we selected. We'll put those in place too. I think we're probably, I'm probably going to glue those down because foam squares are pretty large and there's just a really small area. Maybe I'll use some pop dots. I don't know. We'll see. See how I feel. Okay. So what I would do is kind of stand this up and just get him nice and centered. Make sure he's centered. That looks pretty good. And then push them into place with your foam squares. And one of those has got to be holding it, or not. I think I just get a better vantage point if I could be above it, but I would be in the way of the camera. So get it centered, just like that, and press them down into place. And there you go. Cute. Let's get our candles in place. And then all that's left to do is put the bottom together. This is pretty straightforward because it's essentially the same thing as putting the top together, minus the fact that we don't have all of the additional pieces. We don't have a toy soldier to put on there. It's just a simple little box with a liner. Okay, so I've got 3 on each candle just so that the middle doesn't bend in. Kind of we'll keep it nice and straight. Okay, pull the backings off of these. Okay, and you want to, when you position this on here, kind of have it just slightly over this little, in my case, the gold piece, and you want it nice and centered in that blue area there. Like that. Okay, just like that. And we'll do the same thing with the other one. Okay, probably should have left this part for last and put the base together, but I think I just got excited to see what all this would look like because we're kind of almost done with the fun part. And then we have to put one more thing together. So when you put this one down, try to make sure that it's the same height as the other candle, just so everything maintains a level of symmetry. And get it nice and centered. I think I got to nudge this one up a tad. There we go. I think that's about right. There we go. Okay, cool. Well, you know what? Let's do the holly leaves last, and we'll let that sit. And again, we've got the base for this thing. It still needs to be assembled. Very straightforward, just like the last one. Find the pieces. There's going to be 4 pieces, 1 through 4. They all have little Roman numerals. Here's my piece number 1. This is 3. This is 2, 3, and then 4. So let's grab our glue. Applying my glue to tab number 1. Getting that glue out to the edge. Okay, I can put that down flat on my table. Grab piece number 2 and grab the side that doesn't have the tab and connect that with the piece number 1 tab that we just applied glue to. Press that down, and then you can fold it over onto itself. Make sure that the alignment here on the bottom is spot on. And then go ahead and press that down. Okay, so piece 1 and 2 are connected. Let's get our glue on tab number 2. Like that. Okay, and then grab piece number 3. Here's tab number 2 with the glue. Piece number 3, gonna line that up nicely and Press that down. You can fold it over onto itself. Check the alignment here. Check these two tabs here. Those look good. Give that a nice extra push there where those tabs are. Okay, that should do. Now let's put glue on tab number 3. And my phone is ringing again. Okay, so grab piece number 4 and let's connect it with piece number 3 onto the tab that had the glue. And press that down. And then fold it over onto itself. Check your alignment here, that looks good. And give that an extra press there. Okay. All right, so it's all one long strip. And just like we did before, we're going to connect this together now. So we're going to put glue on tab number 4, the one with the 4 little marks arranged in a square or a circle, whatever you want to call it. Then grab the other end and get that nice and aligned. Make sure it's nice and flush on the bottom. You can technically just kind of squeeze them together. It's not going to lay flat, but that's okay. There we go. All right, now we're back to the little shape that we had with the red box. And just as we did before, we're going to anchor this. Now take a look at these 2 pieces. One of them has a BL cut into it. That is the bottom liner. This is the actual bottom. The liner is going to go in after we get this assembled. Okay, so do the same thing. We're going to anchor it at the bottom. So get your glue on this bottom tab. And I'm going to paint that glue out to the very edge. Grab my piece that does not, this is the one that does not have the BL on it. It's a little bit wider, so you want to make sure you get the right one. And get that nice and aligned with the very bottom there on both sides, all along this seam here. Just press that down for a second. Not making good contact here on the end, that's okay. Okay, so you can then let that drop and press down right here just to get that nice and in place. And then, just like we did first time around, I think we can go ahead and just do the 2 long sides here. So get your glue on these tabs here. I'm going to do a nice line of glue right out to the very edge there. And just kind of paint that glue right along the very edge there. Okay, and then go ahead and drop that in place. Get that first side nice and aligned. Push down, make sure it's making good contact. Get the other side in. And push that down. Might need to nudge this side in just a tad if necessary. There we go. Okay, so that's all in place. We'll flip that over. And there we go. And I've got some areas here on this side that are not sitting flat because I didn't get enough glue on there. So back to my scrap. Just kind of paint the underside of this with a little bit of glue and press that down in that little area that wasn't sitting flat. Okay, so we're almost there. We've got 2 more little sections here in the front to get glued down. Go ahead and apply your glue to the remaining 2 tabs. Just like that, and get some glue out to the very edge there. There we go. And then it should just kind of snap into place as far as the positioning goes, and it does. You may need to kind of just push in on that wall a tad if it's not lined up accurately, and hold that down, let it set, There we go. Beautiful. And we can flip it over, push down on the tabs from the inside. And just as we did with the lid, take some glue, run it around the perimeter, maybe a little bit in the center, and take the piece that has the BL on it and pop that into place for the liner, just to kind of sturdy it up. Okay, so there is our base. Here is our lid. Should slide on there nicely. Watch the little notches there where your hands go, or your fingers I should say, and there we go. And you can see that there's a little bit of it still showing, which is great. That's what we want, and then we can pull it off and pop it on as we please. So that's that, and that just leaves the leaves. That just leaves the leaves. Okay, so these have been kind of sitting underneath my mat so that they would dry nice and flat. And I'm rhyming, and I'm going to go ahead and pinch these again to kind of add that dimension since they're all nice and set. There's really no resistance there, and I've got the beautiful dimension on these here, and they're pretty much ready to go. And we do have to put our little berries on the bottom here, actually in the centers, I should say. I'm sorry. Okay, so there we go. We've re-pinch them to reposition them, and obviously the large set of berries here are going to go on the larger piece of holly. These are all the same size, so it doesn't matter which direction you lay this down. Just get that nice and centered there, just like that. Grab the other two small ones and get your glue on the back of this. Hopefully I'm in frame right now. I am. Get that nice and centered. Oops. Right in there. Just drop it right in the center there. There we go. And one more. And then I'm going to grab my pop dots. The pop dots are a little bit different than the foam squares. The foam squares, they're they're white. You can kind of see them where the pop dots, this is the end of the roll, but what you can actually do is with these, you can rip these in half or make them as small as you want. They're really sticky. Okay. And I can just take one of these and put it on, this is maybe a little bit too big still. Come on, mister. There we go. So I've got just a tiny little pop dot. I'm going to put that on the back where the berries are and let that sit. Now this large one is going to be hanging with the berries up on top, and we want them just below the little crown, nice and centered. So that's going to go right there, like so. Okay. And then these two, the bigger leaf is going to be hanging down, the smaller leaf hanging up, and these are going to go right here on the candles. Okay, you want them to be just the bottom of the tip of the bottom leaf. You want it to be just above the base of the candle itself. And you know what you can do if you don't have pop dots and all you have is foam squares, you can just use some scissors to cut them and make them smaller. Okay, so this is a nice little thin piece there, and you just pop that right on there, and then we'll peel that off. Okay, remember the larger leaf is going to be hanging down. Just make sure the orientation is correct so that it's nice and up and down like that. And then we'll get this one on the last piece, and our box is done. Project is complete, and I think it came out very nice, and I'm sure your recipient is going to love it. Okay, so let's just get this last piece in place, and another one in the books. Great little project for the holidays, and there you have it. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed the project. If you did, do me a favor and take a moment and hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. That is near and dear to me, and I love seeing those numbers go up. I've got a little counter there. Every time I walk in the studio, it's just a wonderful surprise to see that going up every 100 new subscribers we get. So take a moment and do that. And if you make this or anything from our new bundle, I'd love to see it. And the 16,000 plus other dreamers that are in the group would also love to see it. So head on over to your Facebook, and in the search box, do a search for Dreaming Tree Group. Join us and inspire us, and you too will be inspired. So thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I look forward to crafting with you again.